Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we got a topic I think everybody wants to hear. We're talking about building purposeful and profitable business empires. I don't know why that seems like a mouthful for me, but we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it for you and your business. And I have an amazing guest with me from the other side of the world, from Australia, Samantha J. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
So I love the topic, purposeful and profitable empires. I'm going to do my best to say that the whole episode without chewing on my words. But anyway, what does that mean for you? Because I mean, for everybody that could be unique. I want to hear from your perspective. What do you mean with this topic?
I think a lot of the time we've all bought into this idea that the more money we make, the less time, freedom, fulfillment we have. I learned that lesson really hard at 22. I built a multi-8-figure empire of my family's. And as income and money went up, my time, freedom, fulfillment went down until I reached breaking point. And so what I went to discover is I was like, how do we build 7-8-figure empires where money goes up, but time, freedom, fulfillment goes up? So I'm all about how do we merge purpose and profit to coexist? How does profit and money go up, and also our purpose, our fulfillment, our sense of meaning and happiness within ourselves also go up at the same time?
I love that definition. How do you help people with their purpose though? Because that's very unique to each individual. And what I find is a lot of times talking to people, they don't have it clearly defined. It doesn't matter how old they are, how long they've been in business. They've just never taken the time to really think about it. So how do you help clients or just entrepreneurs in general uncover their purpose?
I love this question because a lot of the time we think purpose is something outside of us. It's what we do. But purpose is actually who we are. And so in the first half of my career, I looked for purpose outside in my body, in my business, in my accolades and results. And I wondered why my sense of self and purpose felt pretty unstable. It was like I reached the next destination. It was like, that wasn't it. Something's missing. I've got it wrong. I don't know if anyone can relate to that. And so it was 6 years traveling around the world, getting closer to God, that I realized purpose is in my relationship to God, source, spirit. It's in that, and that's pretty stable, right? And so the closer I got to God, the closer I got to myself and that inner connection, I realized that purpose is who I am. Purpose is actually in who I be. And it doesn't matter if I'm a janitor or I'm an entrepreneur, it's in who I'm being in that moment. It's in my self-expression and how much I'm expressing the truth of who I am moment to moment in what I do. And that really underneath that comes in knowing myself, knowing my wholeness, right? And it was in that internal relationship building and getting closer to God and source and spirit that I found fulfillment. And I realized that purpose, I could be having a really shit week or month in business and still feel so on purpose. Whereas old me was like, it's not enough, but it wasn't enough in a low month and it wasn't enough in a high month because my purpose wasn't outside of me. It was inside of me.
Yeah, that's such a good way to look at it. I love it. And I've heard that from so many people. I've had the same experience myself, to be honest with you. And so over those 6 years, I mean, what was the transformation in your business? What did you see in terms of growth, both personally, professionally, when you had that clarity and that inner peace?
The biggest shift I saw was that I realized that I didn't have to abandon myself for success. I didn't have to abandon my health, my family, my love life, my fulfillment, any of that. And I started to recognize a deeper level of internal self-worth where I could earn 5 to 10 times the amount of money with so much less effort, with so much more support. And that's when I came up with my model of the luxury impactful office system, which is all anchored in this whole new internal self-worth. When you have high levels of self-worth, you can be paid a premium, you can delegate to teams and support, and you can ultimately get back time. And that's when I built that next 7 figures of my empire, literally working 3 to 4 hours. Before that, I worked 16-hour days, and I sacrificed everything. I abandoned my whole self. But when I shifted and created this new level of self-worth, I was like, oh my God, I can make ridiculous amounts of money with less work.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody wants that. So I don't know how much time it would take you to dive into that. We have a very short amount of time on this podcast. We'll include links down below. Don't worry, you'll find out more about Samantha when we're done.
Yeah.
But in the time that we do have, can you unpack this a little bit? What's the process you take people through to get there? Because that's a huge shift. I mean, 16 hours a day down to 3 or 4, and maybe it was even 3 or 4 hours a week. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's huge. How do you get people there?
It's all in your childhood trauma. I've got a best-selling book, Build Your Empire from the Inside Out. Send me a DM book. I'll give everybody free copies, but it's all in your childhood. And I'll get you guys to write this down. It's all in your childhood of where you perform, where you think you need to be perfect, where you prove yourself, and where you please yourself. And these different stories of your childhood trauma, they anchor an identity in inadequacy rather than wholeness. And when you look at your childhood trauma, for me, it was this core identity of I'm worthless. I was sexually abused as a young girl, and being a high-performing entrepreneur, it was anchored in that trauma. So I had to go back into my childhood trauma, heal that belief system around where I was worthless. And by healing it, then I ultimately had a new self-concept of my own worth. And I got to see then myself through a new set of eyes. And it can be different for each person. It might be anchored in rejection, abandonment, something to do with mum or dad. But ultimately, when you realize you are enough and you are worthy, then the past heals. And when the past heals, your future looks different. And it's like you have a new set of eyes as you're looking at your business. And from there, once you see yourself differently, then we ask these questions. I ask you this: what's your money goal for the next 12 months? And you might be like 7 figures. And up until that point, you wouldn't have believed that you could actually intentionally design your business to reach 7 figures where your needs are met. But suddenly you believe you can. And so your business isn't happening to you anymore. You're now in control of your business. And I ask you, well, how much time do you want to work? How much freedom do you want? How much fulfillment do you want? And suddenly you're not a victim to your business. Your business isn't happening to you. You're in control, and you get to design it on your ideal terms to get there. And then that's where we price it with a luxury, scalable premium offer. We start helping you put your story as the premium brand. And then we attract the clients that want to work with you through that scalable sales and marketing system. But it's literally all designed around you being so selfish in the middle of your business, which is what we're told not to do as business owners. So the more selfish you become, the more intentional you are with your scalable system to achieve those goals. And then from there, as soon as you land those first couple of clients, it's like, you start to get evidence. Oh, I'm worthy of my needs mattering. I'm worthy of success on my own terms. And then you start to build evidence, and then the confidence grows through that process.
Interesting. I'm curious how you balance the creating a premium luxury brand around yourself, around your personal brand, and also not requiring so much time. And obviously people have done it. You're a great example. I happen to think of Tony Robbins is another example that probably everybody knows, where, I mean, the company's name is his name. But how do we do this as, we're building our businesses, we're younger entrepreneurs. We don't have the reach that Tony Robbins does. If you put your face on everything, how do you separate yourself from the brand and the fulfillment of the product? How do you help your clients do that?
Through helping them to leverage their story. So first we need to create a category of one story that's truly inspiring and impactful to that select few. Then from there, my favorite way in the beginning phases is to help them to create a top-rated podcast. When we create a top-rated podcast with 6 select guests that reflect the aspiring identity of their clients. So for example, if I'm working with a content maker, I want to understand the inspiring story behind the content maker. Then I want to be able to infuse that story into their podcast. And I want to get maybe Hormozy as one of their top 6 guests, because as a content maker, all their clients are now aspiring to be Hormozy, but they can't get access to Hormozy now. So they love this early startup, or established entrepreneur, and they buy into that story of where that early stage entrepreneur is. He might talk about insecurities of being seen online. He might talk about different things that are relevant to them. And so they have emotional buy-in, plus they have that authority piece of the top rated podcast, and they feel a little bit closer to him, but they know that Hormozy is where they want to be. Right. And so launching a top rated podcast, being so strategic with your first 6 guests, that was the difference between me being paid $5,000 and $25,000 within the first 6 to 12 months of launching new offers. That's the best place to start. And then from there, you look at partnerships, you look at PR, right? And you look at other premium branding strategies from there.
I love it. I want you to break my heart a little bit, because I definitely missed the boat. This is not one of my first 6 episodes. What's a top rated podcast? I don't think I'm going to make it, but I want to hear what it is.
A top rated podcast, did you know, I think it's like 80% of podcasts don't make it past 5 years or their first 100 episodes. Mm-hmm. So, right. And so a top rated podcast, it's a specific strategy where you launch your podcast over 5 days with an episode every day with specific guests that we choose based on what your branding goals are and how you want to be perceived. And we get everybody to rate the podcast, to subscribe, and we do a giveaway in those first 5 days that boost the podcast so you get in the top 5 or top 10 of ratings, simply by how we launch the podcast and how we get people to engage in those first 5 to 10 days.
That's pretty cool. I did not do that, for the record. But we are in the top 10%, so that's pretty awesome. Maybe I'm top rated podcast here.
You are, yeah.
No, all jokes aside though, I was curious because it's interesting. A lot of people, like you said, whether it's a podcast or business, they start it and they don't finish it. They don't get past what'd you say, 5? I think 21 is the episode the episode count where 80+% of people don't make it to. And that number fascinated me when I was launching this podcast. So I was like, that's so easy. Like, how could you not get past episode 21? And then at episode like 19, I was like, now I get it. Maybe I understand why people don't make it.
Yeah.
But leveraging, that strategy, building your brand, building your people's awareness of you. How has this impacted you over the last 5 to 10 years? I mean, where are you now versus that time in your life where you were burned out and you were working too much? How many businesses have you built and sold? How many empires, have you built and sold? I'm curious to hear your path on this journey.
Yep. So right now I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years. I've had multiple of my own businesses and also been involved in my family's property development empire. So I've helped to create through my and clients like 9 figures of wealth. And what the difference has been is in the early stages, it really was about, I had to be in the business and I had to work 16-hour days and I had to do sales calls and about 2 to 3 hours of contact with the client to be paid 6 to multi-6 figures. The business I've now built all through my personal brand and through really seeing my own results and not being afraid to brag and not being afraid to be recognized. I was on New York Times billboard just a month ago. There's so many different things I've done. I've done 7 best-selling books now. I've got a top-rated podcast. I've got multiple awards. All of these things all add up. And a lot of the time people are not willing to be seen. And because they're not willing to be seen or brag about their results, their client results, they undersell themselves. And so by having a premium brand and a premium offer, I now my offer, it's 25,000 to 100,000. It's easy to sell 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 offers, but think about how many people are doing that. So one of the easiest ways for you to differentiate yourself right now is to literally 2 to 10 times your price, because there's probably nobody up there. And people associate quality and expertise and certainty in that they'll achieve an outcome with price. Hormozy talks to this too. And so when you increase price, you increase your perception in the market and you create a category of one. And so now it's like I have people that find me and then buy at 25,000 to 50,000 just from an event. I have people that find me and just from a couple of DMs, upsell to my 100K offer. So people pay more and it takes less time for them to buy, and then they buy more often. My lifetime value of my client, it's now between $30,000 to $50,000, whereas many years back it was so much lower, and it was just taking so much effort, work, push, hustle because I built my business around the low worth. I got to prove myself. I've got to, but now I'm like, well, somebody can find me and buy because I'm a master at what I do, and my price says that too.
Yeah, it always blows my mind. It's, we have a $100,000 offer in our business, and it's so easy to sell. It's also so easy to work with those people versus, in the past, even, a couple of years ago, we just had a few $1,000 product.
Yeah.
Maybe easy to sell, relatively easy to sell, but you don't want to work with those people. It's like pulling teeth to get them to do one thing that you ask them. And they're always in that silver bullet mentality. It's just, it's crazy. I mean, everything you're saying is, I agree with you. I should have just started with that. I agree with you. Thank you for coming here. But you're right. And I wish more people understood this message, because it is tied to your self-worth and your value, and you can't make that leap. You can't work less and make more until you understand that. And I appreciate you coming and sharing your message. If we had to give the listeners a question though, to think so that they could take this episode and actually take action and change their lives from it, what's a question you would want them to ask themselves so they get a powerful answer that they can go act on?
If you genuinely believed you were the best in the world at what you do, what would be the price you charged? And if your next response is, well, I don't feel I'm the best at the world at what I do, then I would encourage you to build that offer and build that promise, and then ask yourself what you'd charge.
Very interesting. I like that question.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Samantha, I can't thank you enough for being here. If the listeners want to reach out, I know you said DM on Instagram a few times. We'll put that on the screen. Anywhere else people should go to learn more about you?
No, just DM me books on Instagram. I'll send you a copy of all my free best-selling books. And thank you so much for having me.
What a flex that is. I'll send you a copy of all of my best-selling books for free. I mean, dropping the mic here. Samantha, thank you so much for being here. Wherever you're watching or listening, the link is down below. If you are listening, you can go find Samantha on Instagram, DM her, you'll get the books, you'll learn more about her, build your brand, build your personal appearance. So you can charge more and you can live into your purpose. I love it. I love this episode. Make sure you subscribe too. We want to have you back. We put out 5 episodes a week. We didn't do it Samantha's way, and I messed up. The next podcast, I definitely will. But this one, we want to have you back tomorrow. Thanks for listening to Harmonious at Lunch.